Hello and welcome to our summer webinar series where we are featuring different tax and tech tools that we implement with our clients here at the Wealth Boutique. I'm Jessica Weaver, Wealth Advisor and CEO of the Wealth Boutique. With us, we have Eric from Assetmark, and today we're going to talk about donor advised funds. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be very interactive and give you a little taste of something that you might not have heard of before. We have a client, she opened up a donor advised fund in the fall of last year because she is an immigrant here to this country. She got through pharmacy school through grants and scholarships, and she's at a point in her career where she wants to be able to give back as well. So we set this up, and she gets to pick different charities throughout this year, throughout all the years. Well, the money is still invested and growing, and it helps her also with taxes. So it was a beautiful way to start living out her legacy now, implementing it with her assets, and also diversifying out of her accounts. So I'm going to hand it over to Eric here as he's going to dive into what all is a donor advised fund.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Excited to be here. This is one of my more favorite kind of topics to talk about. Really because of the charitable impact that it can have, but also because of the tax savings that people can realize from it. And it's also just it's a fun program. I get to show you guys the platform, how to make grants, how to look up different charities, and really just make that impact and do it in an easy and a fun way. So. Let's first cover what a donor advised fund here is, and let me just get this in slideshow mode very quickly. There we go. So you'll see two different options. I'm going to focus on the donor advised fund today. Mostly, we have a single charity fund. That option is for people 70 and a half and older. Just kind of looking at the group today, I don't think that is really going to qualify for, but I'll go over that kind of briefly as well too. That's a way that you can also, offset your income through a charitable program, but it would be for qualified assets. So that would be, think your IRA when you get to an age where you have to take a required minimum distribution, or at 70 and a half, a year and a half or so before you're required to take that RMD. You can contribute your IRA to a single charity fund, similar to a donor advised fund. But to get into what a donor advised fund is specifically, that's going to be for your non-qualified assets, and it's a way in which you can contribute appreciated securities, cash, or illiquid assets into a donor advised fund, and you get to offset your income from those different contributions, and then you can invest those contributions to allow those to grow, and they grow tax-free. So that's a great benefit. It helps multiply your impact in terms of being able to give. So how the tax deduction works is when you give a securities, so stocks, bonds, mutual funds, when you contribute that to a donor advised fund, you can deduct up to 30% of your adjusted gross income by contributing that. So we often tell people the best place to kind of start is pick stocks that have the most embedded gains, meaning that you bought it for the lowest price and it's appreciated the most, or the stock that's done, or a position that's done the best in your portfolio. It could be something that's just taken off really quickly, potentially, right? And just went up in a short period of time. Or it could be something you've held a little bit longer, and because of time and it growing over time, that has a large gain in it. So it allows you to not have to pay those capital gains on that contribution. So we'll go over an example here, quickly to show that savings benefit that you get from making that contribution to a donor advised fund, rather than taking that security and then just giving it directly to a charity. We'll show the benefit, and not only to the charity, but to yourself and from a tax standpoint. So what you do is you take these securities, as I mentioned, cash, up to 30% of your income you can deduct. So let's say you make 100 grand. If you contribute 30 grand, you can deduct up to the 30 grand from your 100. For cash, you can deduct up to 60%. So certainly a little bit more than the cash. And then 30% for illiquid assets. You still get to while you technically no longer own those assets, because in the eyes of the IRS, when you put it into a donor advised fund, it's considered a gift at that time. You technically no longer own those assets. The technical owner of those assets is our donor advised fund sponsor. Their name is GiveClear. And while you technically are no longer the owner, you have full control on how those those contributions are invested, and then when to give them out to charity. So you don't have to give the contributions that you make out to the donor advised fund on an annual basis. You can go several years or really as long as you want to, if you want to let the account grow and then give it out later over time. Some people will do that and kind of treat it more like an endowment, meaning they'll let the account grow for maybe 10 years or so, let it double, and then give a certain percentage away every year. Or you can just start gifting right away. That's one of the nice benefits of this. It's really up to you on how you want to use it and what makes kind of the most sense for you. And then the barrier to entry, much lower than our previous sponsor. We changed a few years ago. For as little as $10,000, you can open up a donor advised fund. But it is most beneficial if you don't take a standard deduction on your taxes, but you itemize your deduction. So I would say, just in terms of some of these tax conversations, to talk to your CPA to see how you can benefit further. Just not being a tax professional, I don't want to get too into the weeds on that, but to get most of the benefits from a donor advised fund, you do want to itemize your taxes. So let me stop here. Actually, I'm going to show you real quick here how that kind of that example of contributing to a donor advised fund versus just giving it straight to charity. So if you can see in this example here, we're taking an example of $100,000 and putting it into the donor advised fund. They're assuming that we purchased the security for $40,000. So there is $60,000 in gains that this account has, or that security has. If you were to just sell the securities and then donate it to charity, at minimum, you're going to have to pay 15% long-term federal capital gains tax, which is going to be on 60,000, that's going to be $9,000. And this number in reality is probably going to be higher, because if you're subject to the net investment income tax, let's add another 3.8% to that in terms of tax you have to pay. If you're in a state that has a flat tax rate on capital gains, I live in the great state of Illinois, we have a flat tax of 4.95%. That would also be included. So for a lot of people in Illinois, it might be more like 23.8% would be the hit here, but we're just assuming that the minimum here, which is a 15% long-term federal capital gain tax, that would cost $9,000. So then your charitable contribution would only be $91,000, and the value you would get from deduction would be $22,850. But if you put it into a donor advised fund, you can see that you didn't have to pay any capital gains. You get to make the entire amount. The $100,000 is a charitable contribution. And the value, your tax deduction is much higher, right? It's that 35%, or assuming the 35% federal rate in this situation. So it's a way that you can smartly give to charity, keeping more allowing the charity to have more of what you earn on that security by doing the entire contribution rather than just a portion of it. But again, I would talk to your CPA about how you can benefit from this, and really also for what securities that you want to select. Again, I would start with the securities that have the most gains in it, because then you're going to be, eliminating more of these capital gain, burdens that you would have in that situation. So going back to the presentation here. So you can give, as we mentioned, those stocks, bonds, and cash, but you can also give illiquid assets. And you also, let's say if you have a business and you were to sell that business, you can contribute a portion of the sale to a donor advised fund as well too, to offset, in a large year where you may have a large liquidity year. But in terms of other things you can contribute, think of real estate here. Got Cameron Poe from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So fine art you can contribute, patents even, and even livestock. Our folks in the Southwest and in Texas have those types of needs, and we've even seen situations where people will gift herds of cattle. Our sponsor, GiveClear, who does a lot of the work in terms of keeping track of the tax receipts. The platform I'm going to show you, they do all of that. They have a third party that they work with to help evaluate how much these contributions, illiquid contributions, would be worth, and then how much you could then put into the donor advised fund, and then how much you could offset accordingly. So we can work with you on that. We don't see these as much, but business sales is something we do see a little bit more of, where this is more applicable. We also have a program inside of the donor advised fund, which is cool, where think of this as kind of like a GoFundMe, where I can take my donor advised fund and I can start a campaign. And our sponsor will work with you in terms of creating QR codes and getting this out to individuals, whether it's people you work with, friends, family, and then they can make a contribution to this program. Now they can't use their own donor advised fund; they would have to use a credit card to make a payment. But it's a way for you to leverage your Rolodex and people to start a campaign to raise money for a charity or for a cause that you're very passionate about. So this is something actually, kind of a cool story. I can't say the name because of privacy reasons, but there was a country music singer at the football stadium in New York. I think it might be MetLife Stadium. Played a concert there, 80, 90,000 people. He's a client of GiveClear, our donor advised fund sponsor, and they actually put a QR code up in between songs. And he talked about the charity that he was passionate about, and they got thousands and thousands of contributions just in that moment. People, taking a picture of the QR code and making a contribution. So great way that you can leverage your social group of people to help raise money for different causes. And to kind of show what that platform looks like. So when you make that contribution to the donor advised fund and then you want to give it away, let's kind of see how that looks. And we'll go through a couple examples here where we can make a grant and show it, kind of exactly how that would look. So this is what it would look like when you log in. This is kind of a dummy account. You'll see there's no balance or there's no transactions on this. This is something that just put together for kind of, purposes like this. To make a grant, very simple, very intuitive. Just click on this give button here. You can click explore charities and then type in either the EIN or which is the kind of tax ID number for the charity. Or you can type in the name and then you'll see that name pop up. So I like to just do kind of some ones everyone's heard of. So we can do American Red Cross. And you'll see them come up here. I can select them, hit give, and then I can type in the amount I want to give, if I want to make it one time or if I want to make it recurring, the date of the submission, and then the reason for giving. These are definitely important to put in if you want to have some, kind of give some direction on where you want that to go. Let's say you want to give to a university. Let's say you're your alma mater and you were part of the theater program, or you were on the dance team, or you were on the football team, or if you're a fan of the football team, and you wanted to go to that specific department. This is where you would put in here, you would say, please direct this towards that applicable department. And then legally they're required to have that money go into that, to that department. So a way that you can also, make sure that the money goes in, to different parts of the organization that you want to go into. So I figured we can maybe try, if you guys want to throw out a charity or two that maybe you've given to or are passionate about, and we can look it up here. Most of our charities are in here, but there are 1.9 million 501c3s. So if the charity is not in here, I can show you then how we would add it, which usually just takes a couple days. But does anybody want to throw out a charity name that they give to that we want to look up?
We do Tunnel for Towers, if you want to look that up.
What was that again?
Tunnel for Towers.
Tunnel, if I can spell.
We don't see your screen. We still see the PowerPoint too.
Oh, let me go back to share. Sorry about that. Thank you for
Of course.
When I went back, I thought I was sharing, but it says I am sharing my screen. Maybe what do you see exactly?
We see the presentation.
Okay, let's get off of that. How about now?
Still the presentation.
Okay, let me just, because it's like locked in on it. I see. Okay. You know what? Let me just cancel out of that then. That's fine. Perfect. You guys see it now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So sorry, let me go back to the beginning. And this was at the Tunnel for Towers. The Stephen Tiller Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Does that look right?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. Yep. So this is on here. And you can go ahead and select that, then hit give. Or remember that kind of GoFundMe I started. If you want to start a campaign, that's how you do that. You'd click here. But click on the give button here. I can put in the dollar amount, again, one time or recurring, and then the reason for giving. And that's where I mentioned if I was giving, let's say, like the University of, I don't know, if you're giving to NYU or a state school in New York, I could then, tell them where I wanted that note to go by just putting in a custom note and just saying, hey, give to the, whatever department, and legally they're required to have to do that. So easy way to do that. So you can also look up charities just kind of in your neighborhood. It also kind of uses the Amazon model, just kind of based on charities you look at. It might give you some different options and suggestions. Also, you can search by different categories as well too. So it makes it really easy. And then one thing that you can do with our program that other DAFs can't do is that you can give away a portion of your donor advised fund to family members, and then they would get a login like this, and then they could also give to different types of charities. So let's say you had $50,000 in your donor advised fund and you wanted to give, 10,000 to two family members. You can do that so where they can log in and give to these different charities. Then you can also set up your succession plan in here. So let's say, again, let's just use the two children example. You want to give it to them. You can add it here to split 50-50, or if you want to name a charity as the beneficiary when you pass away, then it would go to that named charity. So just some ways that you can kind of set this all up within here, making it super easy. And then it's also where you can get your tax receipts and statements as well too. So again, this is kind of a not a real account, so it's not going to show. There aren't any grants in here, but it would show all the grants that you gave to the different charities here. So all of your kind of information here in one place to make it super easy for you as well too. So you can have a lot of fun with this, just kind of searching and looking through the different charities. And let's say there is a charity that isn't on here for whatever reason. Like I said, there's more than 1.8 or 9 million charities. We can just submit a charity request here, and we can type in the charity name, the EIN. We get that information, and like I said, in a couple of days, usually we can turn around and get that approved and let you know that it's available to give. So just some fun ways that you can use this platform, and just wanted to give you guys a look at it just to show just how simple and easy it is to use for you guys. Let's see here. That's kind of more or less what we had, just in terms of talking points for today. I mentioned the single charity fund earlier. That's for IRAs. We do have a home for those if you're making qualified charitable distributions from that. Let's say you don't need the RMD. We can go ahead and set up a similar fund where you make that similar contribution. It grows tax free, and you can give it away at your leisure. So very similar just in terms of the differences between the two. It's actually easier to explain the differences. Again, one for qualified, one for non-qualified. And then for a single charity fund, you can only name one fund or one charity to give to, kind of as the name implies. But with the donor advised fund, you can give to as many charities as you want to. So really the minimum grant that you would make is $100. So if you have tens of thousands of dollars, you can imagine how many different types of charities you can give to with just the $100 minimum. So pretty happy to take any questions on this program or anything else.
Thank you, Eric, for that overview. Any questions? Very user-friendly too. It's just great to see. Makes it simple.
Yeah.
I like the idea of gifting if it starts to grow and you want to give it to your children and they can decide where the money goes. You can do that as well, creating the succession plan.
Yep. You can also, name or identify 10 or 15 charities for them to give to if you want to kind of put some training wheels on it. If you're worried that they may give to something that doesn't align with, what you're passionate about, or you can just give them, if you trust them, you can give them full kind of access to to the platform. You can also add more, or I kind of joke around Thanksgiving. If somebody says something you don't like, or they say something you don't like, you could take it away from them if you wanted to. Because technically you still control it, you still own it. It's more of just, hey, you're giving this person access to it. So you do have those kind of controls on there as well too. Hopefully it doesn't come to that though. We don't like that when that happens, but we know families are complicated. So
The holiday threads.
yeah.
Yeah, sounds good, Eric. Any questions for Eric? I'm sure this will come up with some of the reviews that we have scheduled up here too. But thank you so much for diving into this is our third part. We have one more to go, but we talked about the tax management service. We talked about donor advised funds, the securities backed line of credit for the first three. And then the next one, we're going to go into private credit space. How do we get some extra yield on your investment accounts? And what does that space look like? So we will see you all for our next one. And thank you for joining us again, Eric.
Thanks, Jessica. See you,
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody. Have a great night.